For 3 felony counts of which he has been charged. First-degree murder with special circumstances, the count of lewd and lascivious acts with a 13-year-old, and the count of mutilation of human remains.
On September 8th, 2025, Los Angeles police responded to a routine call. A car, abandoned on a Hollywood Hills street days earlier, had been towed to a municipal lot. Someone had reported a smell. Nothing about the call suggested it would unravel one of the most disturbing cases in modern music history. The car was a Tesla Model X, registered to a 21-year-old rising star known to millions of fans simply as D4vd. Inside the front trunk, wrapped and hidden beneath air fresheners, officers found a body. It would take 8 more days for investigators to confirm who she was. Her name was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was 14 years old. To understand how a missing teenager from Lake Elsinore ended up in the trunk of a platinum-selling artist's Tesla, you have to go back 3 years to a version of this story that looked nothing like a crime. According to court filings, David Anthony Burke, the artist the world would come to know as D4vd, first met Celeste in January 2022. She was 11 years old. He was 17, an unknown teenager posting music on SoundCloud, still years from the fame that was coming. Prosecutors say the two connected online, the way an entire generation of teenagers do. Through social media, through shared interest in music, through a platform that made an age gap easy to obscure. For nearly 2 years, by all accounts, their relationship stayed there. Online, distant, unremarkable. Then, in November 2023, according to the prosecution's brief, something changed. D4vd was 18 now. Celeste was 13. Prosecutors allege this is when the relationship became sexual, a claim that forms the foundation of one of the 3 charges against him: continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14. That same month, D4vd sat across from Jimmy Kimmel on national television, performing the song that had just made him famous. It was called Romantic Homicide. Nobody watching that night had any reason to think twice about the title. Over the following year, Celeste's life split into 2 increasingly incompatible tracks. In February 2024, she was reported missing for the first time. She returned home within days. Her family, according to later reporting, knew she had a relationship with a boy named David. They just didn't fully understand who he was or what was actually happening. By April 2024, she vanished again, this time for good, at least from her family's daily life. Her brother later told reporters she'd left to see a movie with Burke. She was 13 years old, a 7th grader. What followed was, by prosecutors' account, a relationship conducted increasingly in plain sight, even as it remained a secret from the people who should have protected her. Court documents describe Celeste spending weekends at Burke's Hollywood Hills home throughout 2024. She reportedly traveled with him to Las Vegas, to London, to Texas to meet his family. To the outside world, if anyone noticed her at all, she may have simply looked like part of his entourage. Meanwhile, David's career was accelerating past anything either of them could have predicted a year earlier. Streaming numbers climbing, a major label deal, the kind of trajectory that turns a teenager with a laptop into a name filling arenas. 2 lives, running in parallel, that were never supposed to intersect with the public record. According to the prosecution's brief, the relationship ended in November 2024. But an ending, in this case, wasn't really an ending. Texts presented by prosecutors allege the two continued contact and continued a sexual relationship even after the breakup. Then on April 22, 2025, something shifted. Prosecutors say the two got into an argument. The messages, they allege, revealed jealousy, Celeste's, over other women in Burke's life, after he'd allegedly led her to believe they had a future together. The next day, April 23, 2025, prosecutors allege David Burke killed Celeste Rivas Hernandez with what court filings describe only as a sharp instrument. It was 2 days before the release of his debut album. For nearly 5 months afterward, nobody knew. Celeste's family had already been searching for a runaway daughter for the better part of a year. The world knew D4vd only as an artist on the rise, his album climbing the Billboard charts, his tour dates selling out. Then came September 8th. The smell, the tow lot, the trunk. Identifying the remains took time. The body had been in that trunk for days before discovery, and decomposition had already taken hold. On September 16th, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed what dental records could prove. This was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But it was a smaller, quieter detail that first pointed investigators toward D4wd specifically. Weeks before formal charges were ever filed, Celeste had a tattoo on one finger, 3 letters and a symbol, shh. Her mother had noticed it before, and later told reporters it matched a tattoo she'd seen described in connection with the case. D4wd had the same tattoo, in the same place, on his own hand. The next day, September 17th, LAPD executed a search warrant at the Hollywood Hills home where D4wd had been staying. Investigators removed a computer and other evidence. According to law enforcement sources, what they found inside the garage was consistent with the dismemberment of a body. 2 months passed before D4wd was formally named a suspect. On November 26, 2025, the Los Angeles Times reported that the district attorney's office had impaneled an investigative grand jury, a secretive legal process where evidence is heard behind closed doors before any public charges are filed. It would be several more months before the public saw a single piece of that evidence for themselves. In April 2026, 7 months after Celeste's remains were discovered, David Anthony Burke was arrested. He was charged with first-degree murder, with special circumstance allegations attached, meaning prosecutors believe this wasn't a spontaneous act, but one committed with premeditation, to silence a witness. Alongside that, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. He pleaded not guilty to all of it. He remains held without bail. At a press briefing announcing the charges, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman stood beside a portrait of Celeste. Not a mugshot, not a crime scene photo, but a photograph of a 14-year-old girl who existed as a person before she became a case number. The preliminary hearing, the legal process that determines whether there's enough evidence to send a case to trial, stretched across 4 days this year. It was the first time the public heard the prosecution lay out its evidence in full. LAPD homicide detective Joshua Byers testified to how the remains were found, divided between 2 separate containers inside that Tesla trunk. The medical examiner's office confirmed the cause of death as homicide, from sharp force injuries. Investigators also testified that the remains had been dismembered after death, testimony the courtroom absorbed in silence. The defense immediately pushed back on how directly this evidence tied to Burke himself. Under cross-examination, Detective Byers acknowledged that due to the state of decomposition, certain forensic tests, matching the body bag itself to a specific person, hadn't been possible at the scene. It was the defense's central strategy from the start. Acknowledge the horror of what happened to Celeste, while creating doubt about who was responsible for it. Prosecutors answered with a different kind of evidence entirely, a digital trail. Financial investigators testified that on April 24, 2025, 1 day after Celeste's death, Someone made a series of purchases, shipped directly to Burke's Hollywood Hills address, paid for with a card in his name, but placed under a false one. A heavy-duty shovel, an inflatable pool, tarps, multiple chainsaws. Forensic investigators described what they found in Burke's garage during the September search. Blood evidence recovered from beneath rubber floor mats, and microscopic material recovered from the remains that was chemically consistent with the inflatable pool investigators later found there. The defense's counter was precise. The chainsaws recovered from the garage tested negative for human blood. The actual weapon used to inflict the fatal injuries has never been found. If the first days of the hearing were about physical evidence, the final stretch was about motive, and that meant the text messages. Detective Corey Farrell took the stand to walk the court through years of communication between Burke and Celeste, stretching back to when she was 11. The messages, prosecutors said, documented an escalating hidden relationship, one that included, according to testimony, a pregnancy Celeste experienced at 13, and an abortion in early 2024. I'm not going to repeat her private words here. They were hers, written by a child in a moment of enormous pain, never intended for a courtroom or an audience. What matters is what that testimony revealed. Evidence of profound harm, and a young girl processing something no 13-year-old should ever have had to carry, largely alone. The weight of that testimony reached the gallery directly. Celeste's mother, sitting yards from the man accused of killing her daughter, began crying audibly as the messages were read. The prosecutor paused the proceedings to comfort her before continuing. Prosecutors allege the final months of Celeste's life were defined by a relationship unraveling under its own secrecy, and that by April 2025, she was no longer willing to keep it hidden. That, prosecutors argue, is the motive. A 21st century pop star, weeks from a major album release, choosing silence over exposure. Burke's legal team has built its case on two pillars. First, access. Financial records and witness testimony established that Burke's Hollywood Hills home was rarely empty. Producers, friends, and a live-in security guard all had regular access to the property, the garage, and by extension, the Tesla. The defense's argument isn't that nothing happened to Celeste. It's that the physical evidence doesn't conclusively prove who was responsible. Second, the autopsy itself. The deputy medical examiner acknowledged under cross-examination that due to the advanced state of decomposition, toxicology results were inconclusive. Initial testing suggested the possible presence of certain substances. Follow-up testing couldn't confirm it. The defense has used this uncertainty to argue the court cannot rule out other explanations for how Celeste died before her remains were altered. Burke's attorneys have said publicly that they intend to vigorously defend him against every charge. As of this hearing, Judge Charlene Olmedo has not yet ruled on whether there's sufficient evidence to send this case to a full criminal trial. That decision is still to come. What's already clear is this: a 14-year-old girl who once posted about ordinary teenage things, a girl her teacher remembers from a classroom in Lake Elsinore, became connected, at 11 years old, to a person who would go on to sell out arenas. Somewhere in the 3 years between that first meeting and her death, the version of this story that should have existed, an ordinary childhood, uninterrupted, was replaced by the one now being argued, piece by piece, in a Los Angeles courtroom. The legal process will take months more to resolve. Whatever the court ultimately decides about David Burke's guilt or innocence, that timeline won't change the fact underneath all of it. Celeste Rivas Hernandez should still be here.